This is Miss Basolka, and this is my cat Baj, and today we're going to be talking about the activities list. So, the activities list is kind of like sophomore year. When other students are going to be phoning it in, you are going to take the opportunity to give colleges one more glimpse about who you are as a person. So, let's start with choosing and ranking the activities. Now, first, colleges are obviously most interested in what you've done in high school. Now, there are exceptions to this. If you've played the violin for the past 12 years, you want to make that clear that you've been playing for 12 years and not just the last 3 years of high school. Or if you were competing, say, at a high level in gymnastics until your sophomore year, but then you got injured and you had to give it up, that still might make your list because it was so formative. Also, make sure you don't neglect the activities that you've done outside of school. For example, if you've had a job, no matter how menial, no matter if it was for a family business, you definitely want to put that down. As an aside, I've had students write really great personal essays about working at the family business, whether that was doing accounting for the family truck firm, or recycling scrap metal, or renovating apartments. And so consider writing about that for your personal essay as well. Also, for the activities list, if you've spent time in activities outside your school, say a church or a cultural center, don't neglect to put those down simply because they occurred outside the school walls. Now, some students are completely unable to participate in extracurricular activities because maybe they're caring for a relative or have some other family obligation after school. That qualifies as an activity too, and you should write that down. So the first thing is to expand your definition of activities to anything productive that you spend your time on outside of academics. Next, you're going to rank those activities. And don't just rank them arbitrarily or mechanically. Rank them according to their importance in your high school experience. Sometimes this works out to be a sheer time equation. You spend 20 hours a week at your sport, you spend 3 hours a week volunteering at a hospital, and then you spend 1 hour a week at a club. So you rank them 1, 2, 3. But this isn't always the case. So just make sure you're ranking them by importance or by their importance to you and not simply the time commitment. Next, think about the description. Now, your audience, the admissions officers, they are experts at high school life. They probably know more about high school activities than you do. They don't need to have explained to them what's involved in being student council president. They don't need to know what your exact responsibilities were as captain of the track team. They already know that. Unless you had some kind of extraordinary duties or the activity has like a vague name like the Blue Blazer Club, don't waste your precious characters describing what the activity is. Instead, you need to think about your specific role in the activity, and that doesn't have to be an official role. Maybe your role was to give encouragement to the new members because you were part of a club that was somewhat cliquey. Maybe it was to help mitigate some kind of animosity between members of the team. Maybe it was your role to write the cheesiest bus chants so that win or lose, you always, returned home as a team. But try to make the descriptions as particular to you and your role as you possibly can. Finally, there are some activities that no matter how many articles you leave out, no matter how you write it, no matter how succinct you make it, they will not fit into the activity space. That's when you use the additional information section at the end of the Common App. You can divide up the 650 words any way that you want, and that's usually where you put the more detailed description of any research or any long lists of sports awards or things like that. And as long as we're talking about the additional information section, what else can you use it for? Well, some students use it to explain a dip in grades if they don't want to devote their personal essay to that, or other personal challenges that they don't want to take the primary role of the personal essay. One student who was an avid reader simply listed all the books she read on her own over the summer. Some students divide the section up some just write one essay. You can also provide links to websites of things that you've worked on, but be judicious about that. Most colleges have their own guidelines about what materials they want. And the main thing with additional information is just not to repeat information, and not to think that the more information, the better. If you give a college a flood of information, sometimes it only waters down the most important points that you want to make on your application. Okay, so up next, how to get the recommendation that you want.